You ever see that article on TextNeck which talks about the loads that are placed on the spine with various posture positions? Well, in that article, it basically says that at 15 degrees of neck flexion, you're placing about 27 pounds of pressure on the spine. And then if you flex your neck up to 60 degrees, you're placing a whopping 60 pounds of pressure on your spine. You might think, holy crap, that's so much force to be placed on the spine. No wonder why I have neck pain. But that article, it's got some issues with its methods, for one. But let's go a little bit in depth into some of the relationships between pain and posture. Let's start off with comparing forward head posture in populations with neck pain compared to those without neck pain. And so obviously we'd expect that if forward head posture is associated with neck pain, that populations with neck pain would have more forward head posture, where populations without neck pain would have less. And there was a systematic review that specifically looked at this. And this systematic review was published in the Current Reviews in Musculoskeletal Medicine in 2019. And what they found is that there was a significant difference in populations with neck pain compared to those without neck pain when it comes to forward head posture. And this population was in adults. And so you might be thinking, yeah, we kind of already know that. Adults have bad posture and that's why they get neck pain. What does this study actually contribute? But there's a couple of points in this article that we actually need to look, which kind of changes the way that we look at these things. To begin though, we should probably define what forward head posture is. And in the literature, there's a couple of different ways that it's defined. And one of the more common ways to do it is by the cranial vertebral angle. And so what they would do is they would take a point at the end of the spinous process, a C7, and then another point at the tragus, and so you'd have a line there. And then you would have a horizontal line. And so you would have an angle there. And the general cutoff to be diagnosed with forward head posture is less than 50 degrees. And so it's important to note when we look at this angle that the smaller the angle is, the more forward head posture that person actually has. So if we take a look at what the average craniovertebral angle is in these studies that were included in the systematic review, we see that for populations with neck pain, the average craniovertebral angle were 46, 40, and then 37 degrees. And we might think, woo, all of those are less than 50, which means that the average, they all had forward head posture. But when we look at the asymptomatic populations, we see that their average craniovertebral angles are 52 degrees, 48 degrees, and 38 degrees. And so then we kind of go, well, wait a second. There's a significant population in the asymptomatic group that have forward head posture but don't have pain. So if forward head posture is the reason why they have pain, why don't they have pain? And additionally, when we look at this, the differences between all of these groups isn't all that much. It's less than 10. In one of the studies, the difference was actually less than 1 degree on average. So what is a clinically meaningful amount of forward head posture when we look at the difference between neck pain groups versus no neck pain groups? And so while the results of this study were statistically significant, the clinical implications don't seem quite as clear. So in this article, it's actually really important for us to understand what the strength of that significance actually is. And so when they look at pain intensity, what they found was that the strength of significance was negative 0.55. And what that means is negative is which direction the trend is going. So remember that for the craniovertebral angle, that the smaller the angle, the more forward head posture that somebody has. So the more forward head posture, the more pain that they typically experience based on the data here. And then it generally goes between 0 and 1, 0 being no correlation, 1 being a very strong correlation. So for 0.55, that's considered a moderate correlation. And when we look at pain disability, that relationship is negative 0.42. So for both of these strength of significance, they're both moderate. But when they actually dig a little deeper in this research and actually look at age, what they find is that pain intensity actually strengthens to negative 0.7, and then for pain disability, it strengthens to negative 0.6. So age is actually a pretty big confounding variable when we actually look at the strength of the association. So it's hard to kind of separate, well, is this more age related, or is this actually because of the forward head posture that these people are more likely to experience pain? So the relationship between forward head posture and pain is a little murky. There seems to be an association, probably moderate for adults, and then when we get into the older populations, it strengthens. But even with that being said, if somebody has forward head posture, is there anything that we can do to alter that forward head posture? Because if we find that someone has forward head posture and it's associated with pain, if we can't change it, there's nothing we can do for it then. But there was a systematic review, another one, published in the Journal of Manipulative and Physiological Therapeutics, mouthful, very long name, which looked at the effectiveness of exercise in forward head posture. And what they found was that there was strong evidence based on 4 randomized controlled trials that exercise was effective in reducing or improving the craniovertebral angle. And there are a variety of different exercise programs that were included in this systematic review. And generally they all were our traditional posture exercise, or what we generally think of when we think of posture exercises. And they included various stretches and strengthening exercises. So for stretches, what they focused on were the neck extensors. And so what they would do is they would do a chin tuck stretch where they were working on those neck extensors by gently just pushing the head down towards the sternum. They would also do a levator scap stretch where they would pull the head gently down towards the armpit. All of these were held for generally 30 seconds. And then they would also do a pec stretch, either in a doorway where their arm is up against the door, and then they'd gently rotate away, stretching that pectoral muscle. For the strengthening exercises, they would focus on the deep neck flexors as well as the scapular retractors. So for the deep neck flexors, the idea is because when you're in a forward head posture position, the deep neck flexors are elongated, so you want to strengthen them. And so they would do a chin tuck exercise where they would lay on the ground and you would lift your head up or curl your head up off the ground to engage those deep neck flexors. These were generally held for 10, 20, 30 seconds, just progressing up as you could because they're a pretty challenging exercise. For the scapular retractors, what they would do is they'd basically do a row exercise, and these were generally performed 3 sets of 10, just working on strengthening those rhomboids and middle traps. Additionally, there were a couple of other exercises that were included in some of the other programs, where one of the programs, they focused a little bit more on the shoulders. So with forward head posture, sometimes there's the shoulders will roll forward, and so they were trying to bring them back, and they would do some sideline external rotations with a little bit of weight, working on that rotator cuff. They would also do I's and Y's with some weight to help strengthen the lower traps as well as the middle traps. And then one program actually included Pilates as well, and all of these programs saw good results when they looked at the craniovertebral angle. The average improvement for these programs was around 4.5 degrees, so a decent improvement. But one thing that was lacking is the long-term follow-up for some of these programs, so we don't actually know how long that improvement actually lasted for. But when they looked at pain, they did find that all of these programs were effective in helping decreasing pain as well. Interestingly, one study that was included in this systematic review looked at a local corrective exercise program compared to a comprehensive exercise program and found that both groups significantly improved, but the comprehensive exercise group actually improved more. And this leads us into the question of, well, why does exercise actually help those with neck pain? One mechanism can obviously be that it helped with forward head posture, as we saw that it generally improves by 4 to 5 degrees, which is great. But some of these exercise programs that were included, Pilates and the comprehensive exercise program, weren't necessarily specifically aiming to improve that craniovertebral angle. And so there could be other mechanisms that are at play that are responsible for these improvements. Mainly, maybe just general exercise was just helpful. We got people moving, even if it was just 2, 3, 4 times a week, and that was actually responsible for their improvement. So we actually don't know whether the improvement in neck pain was because of a change in forward head posture or because of another mechanism. And I think that's generally okay because it gives us some options. We don't have to be so specific on doing chin tucks or scapular retraction exercises. If we're just looking at pain, people might respond to a variety of different exercises, and that's okay because we don't necessarily need to change their craniovertebral angle or improve their posture per se, but we can just get them moving and they will still have good outcomes. And to summarize the clinical implications of all this information, exercise can be helpful to help decrease neck pain. It might be because we're changing that craniovertebral angle and improving someone's posture, or it might not be. But that's okay because we have a variety of different options that can be helpful to help decrease the neck pain besides the very specific exercise program. So there's a wide range, and we need to look at how people actually respond to our exercise programs to help set them up for success. So I hope this information on the relationship between pain and posture was helpful for you. If it was, please give this video a big thumbs up. If you want to see more content from my channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button below. I'll put the bubble probably over here. And if you want to be notified of future videos, hit the bell icon as well. I'll see you guys in the next video.